laurel, laurel, laurel,
I can't hear Yanni no matter what I do. It always just sounds like Laurel, which is actually what the page where it came from says. So that's the real one. Hey everyone, what's up? It's me, Jan. Today we're going to be talking about making LUTs four ways. So I went out this weekend and got that footage. I hope you enjoyed the sequence, and let's jump right in. So first things first, what exactly is a LUT? I mean, you hear people selling them on the internet to make production stuff easier, and it's kind of like this mysterious thing. Ooh, it just changes the color. First things first, LUTs are not magic. They're actually math. Go figure. They work on a computer. LUT is spelled L-U-T, and it's an acronym. An acronym? It's an acronym for lookup table, which basically just says it's a table of predefined numbers or calculations that a computer accesses to modify something. So they're used for a variety of different things, from monitor calibration to color grading, and there's several other major applications that LUTs are used for. But there's two kinds when it comes to color correction. There's 1D LUTs, and then there's 3D LUTs, and these two are actually different. With 1D LUTs, you put one value in and you get one value out. So you can only get one transformation on each of the numbers that define the RGB. So they're really only good for changing the gamma of an image. They're good for like input LUTs. Say you're shooting in log, whether that's RE-log or S-log or any of the variety of log formats. Adding a 1D LUT at the beginning can help balance your gamma curves, so your contrast and your exposure and stuff will look correct in a Rec 709 environment. 3D LUTs, on the other hand, which is what we're going to be making today, deal with color very differently. They take every possible color within a predefined three-dimensional cube grid of all the possible RGB values, and this size of that cube can vary based on the detail of the LUT, but it takes all those values and lists out every transformation for all those values within that 3D cube. Put all your color values in, and you get all your color values out, which means you can change things like saturation, contrast, transform specific colors to other colors. You can do a lot more stuff, way more useful. A couple common file formats you'll see is .cube, .3dl, .lut, .look. The important thing to remember with LUTs is they don't do anything except color transformations. So if you wanted to change something like sharpening, a LUT can't do that. It won't, even if you set up your settings in whatever you're editing or creating your LUT in to have sharpening, it won't export that information into the LUT, because a LUT can't hold that kind of thing. Like anything like sharpening, like gradient overlays, patterns, things like that can't be stored in a LUT. So LUTs can only do color transformations. Remember that, it's important. Now that you understand better what a LUT is, let's get into the 4 ways we're going over today to make them. We're going to be designing these LUTs to pull them back into Premiere to color correct our footage. So we're over here in Premiere. Here's the sequence you saw earlier. We're going to start by making a LUT directly in Premiere. So let's go ahead and work on this shot. And let's jump over into color correcting mode. So we have our Lumetri color up over here, and this is what we're going to be using to create our LUT, and then we will be exporting it directly out of here, and that will be right here. So, but first we have to actually set up our correction stuff. So for this LUT, I want it to be a general basic correction for the S-log, followed by kind of more of a look that I want to go for with my footage. And then I want that all compiled into a single LUT that I can just drop on my footage, and then I can just tweak the exposure and other stuff to get everything in more balance. But I want this LUT to do most of the work, because the idea is it's saving me time. All right, first thing, let's start by adjusting our contrast to bring our gamma back into a normal range. And let's pull up our scopes, and looks good. Looks like we're stretching out that information. That's definitely moving out more of the normal range. So from there, let's go ahead down here to creative. And I like that kind of faded film look is what I'm going for. Let's bring that up. You could also add a creative LUT into here if you'd want more of that film type look, you get a film LUT to it. Normally I would add sharpening to S-Log, but in this case I'm creating the LUT, so it's not really going to have any effect on it because LUTs can't do sharpening. Vibrancy, I can bring up those less saturated colors a little bit, but let's desaturate the overall saturation. Do a teal orange tint, where you tint your shadows towards teal here. And then you take your highlights and you tint them towards orange. We can pop down our curves. Just a little punch on the shadows, saturation wise. I hate having magentas in my footage, so I'm gonna pull those out. Really focusing on the teal and orange colors. So let's pull pretty much everything else out. Things we don't need HSL secondary, and we don't need vignette. The corrections done with the HSL secondary don't export. Vignette also doesn't do anything. It's an overlay. It's not gonna modify the color of your image. So let's go ahead and export this color correction as a LUT. So you can export as a look or a .cube. I generally prefer to use cubes. Save this anywhere. I have a little LUT folder inside my project, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. We can actually bring this back in to make sure that it's working. So go disable our current Lumetri and add a second instance of it. On this second instance of Lumetri, you can go ahead and add our LUT back in. Go browse, say cafe.cube, and that should be toggle these on and off. Should have about the same result, which it looks like we do. All right, I'm happy with that look. All right, let's jump to the next software. Next, we're gonna go over to DaVinci Resolve, where we already have our clip pulled in and we're in color mode. DaVinci is a great tool for this. You can get the free version. You can just straight up download it and you can use this to make LUTs for $0. Here's our footage. It works with a node-based editing thing, so you can kind of see the sequence in which the color is being applied. So first thing we're gonna do, which gets our gamma back to the Rec 709, is add a 1D LUT to this. We can go ahead and add, so I select 2 to Rec 709, which is the correct LUT, even though it's blown out. The reason for this is I've overexposed my shot by 2 stops, because with the S-Log2 on my camera, the A7R2, it gets really noisy when stuff is in the shadows when your subject is correctly exposed. So I like to push the exposure up 2 stops to be exact. Seems to be the optimal amount because that retains enough of the highlights but keeps the shadows from being noisy. So let's go over here and just bring the gain down to compensate for that overexposure. And that should be good. Should give us a good starting point. Now we're going to add a second node, which is another corrector. And then with this node, we're going to actually do more of the contrast, and then we'll add color. So once we're happy with our look, we can go ahead and right click on the clip, generate 3D LUT cube. And then we can export that to our LUTs folder, and we'll call this one outside. Hit save, pop back over into Premiere, and we'll go ahead and apply the LUT. And there it is. Next, we'll be taking a look at Photoshop. So we have our same frame over here. So to make your LUT in Photoshop, you have to use adjustment layers only. And you can use pretty much any adjustment layer with the exception of patterns and gradients, because these will not translate. The rest of these just apply color translations. So the rest of these work pretty well for the most part. Okay, I'm happy with this look. And to export this, we go over to File, Export, Color Lookup Tables, which is what a LUT is. So it'll pull up a menu, and typically I like to leave it on high because for some reason maximum creates problems with it being red, so high is good. You can choose a couple different ones. We're going to stick with cube for now. So let's go ahead and save this to our other LUTs. Hit save. We'll do a little processing thing, and then that should be set to go. So switch back over to Premiere. Let's go ahead and apply that Photoshop LUT. And there's that look we generated over in Photoshop. So last one we're gonna do is any software that does any color modifications, you can use it to generate a LUT. We can do this using software called LUT Generator by IWLTBAP. And it utilizes what's called a HALD, H-A-L-D. So what it does is you generate a HALD, I'm clicking generate HALD, and it'll generate a image that contains all the color points within that cube. I want to go to preferences. So you want to use the one that has the bigger size cube because it has more color points, which means more accurate color corrections or color modifications or transforms. So close that, generate, we'll put it in here and hit open. Now if we bring that up in the Finder, we'll see there is something called neutral 512. So what we have here is just an image with all the color points that be in the cube as individual pixels. So what we can do is we can apply modifications to this and then go back into here and click convert to cube. It will translate all of the color changes, the calculations, the difference between the two colors. It'll calculate all of them, and then you'll have your list of color transforms that make up your LUT. All right, so we're gonna do this over in Lightroom. So let's go pop over to Lightroom. So we're gonna go those two, click import. So both these images. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna perform all our color corrections on this one, and then we're gonna just copy those color corrections onto our HALD file. Note, things like clarity and dehaze will screw up it trying to do the corrections. So leave these alone, those should be set to 0. Only color transformations, no sharpening. So what you wanna do is make sure any things like lens corrections, transforms, effects, calibration, that sort of thing, they can all be just off. Things like detail, just turn it all off. But anything that's a normal color transformation can be used. The only ones up here that you can't use are clarity and dehaze. And any of these individual transformations obviously will not translate onto a LUT. All right, that's everything. So what we want to do is copy this all over. Copy. Go ahead and check none. Let's go with things we do want. Basic tone, white balance, tone curve, clarity and dehaze and sharpening, don't want. These ones, color, split toning, no local brush adjustments, none of this. It's pretty much not everything else, just these, and go copy. And then you can just go ahead and paste them over here, and that you'll see will change it. And if you want to be doubly sure, you can actually just switch all of these off. All right, so now what we want to do is go ahead and file, export. So export as a JPEG, maximum quality, do not resize, do not sharpen. So basically nothing in addition, just the straight full quality JPEG. Same folder as the original photo, no subfolder, and go ahead and hit export. So then we have our interior 2 here. So we pop back over to our LUT generator software, convert to cube. We go select our JPEG and hit open. And assuming everything goes correctly and you didn't do anything wonky to it, it'll click done, operation completed successfully. And then you should look over here. It'll generate a PNG version of your interior, but it also generated an interior to cube.cube, and that's your LUT. So we pop back over to Premiere, scrub over to that shot, just right here, apply our interior to cube, hit open, and it'll apply that look. Looking good. And that's it. So that's how to make LUTs 4 ways, for mostly free. I mean, technically Photoshop and Premiere cost money, but I mean, most people who would be wanting to make LUTs would already have the software, I assume, so it would essentially be free. I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave links in the description to the LUT generator software as well as to DaVinci. Also leave links to where you can purchase my LUTs I've created on my website. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the notification button if you want to know when new videos drop. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. See ya.